Really. So let's unpack this. Imagine a city grappling with such a horrifying disease outbreak that its graveyards just couldn't keep up. Burials had to continue into the night by torchlight just to manage the sheer number of
A
dead.
really grim picture.
It really is. That's New Orleans in the summer of 1853, caught in this devastating yellow fever epidemic, reportedly claimed almost 8,000 lives.
Nearly 7,849. Yeah. The scale is just staggering.
It's chilling. But it's actually where our deep dive begins today. We're venturing into what might seem like, well, maybe the most unexciting topic, plumbing codes.
Doesn't sound too thrilling on the surface.
Right. But trust me, this isn't about dry regulations. It's actually a story of survival, science, and public health. We're going to trace the surprising history of Louisiana State Plumbing Code, the LSPC, and see how its very origins are rooted in these intense life and death crises. We'll also try to understand why it remains so distinct from other national models, like the International Plumbing Code, or IPC, and, what those differences mean for you.
It's truly fascinating, actually, how directly public health concerns have shaped these regulations. They've created this kind of unseen layer of protection around us. For this deep dive, we'll be looking closely at a detailed 2009 memorandum. It's from Louisiana's Department of Health and Hospitals, and we'll also pull from historical accounts from various plumbing associations. Our mission really is to understand precisely why Louisiana has championed its own unique code and to distill the crucial differences that impact the well-being of its citizens.
Okay, so let's dive right into the health crisis that started it all. That 1853 yellow fever outbreak in New Orleans, it paints such a stark picture. It wasn't just a sickness, it was like a societal breakdown.
Oh, absolutely. It was a catastrophe, and it forced action. That immediate, overwhelming crisis led directly to a landmark legislative response.
Yeah.
On May 15, 1855, Louisiana established the very first state health department in the entire United States.
The first one. Wow.
The first one. And this move was driven by a crucial lesson learned. Local commercial interests had previously interfered with attempts to create a city health department. They just couldn't get it off the ground. So a state-level body was seen as necessary to ensure public health regulations could actually be implemented without that kind of hindrance.
So prioritizing public welfare over, say, business concerns.
Exactly. It was a clear statement.
That's a truly significant first step. And once this new state health department was formed, what was their immediate focus? I mean, the pressure must have been immense.
Absolutely. They had to act fast. Their early efforts focused on establishing state quarantine stations. On major waterways connecting to the Gulf, think the Mississippi River, the Rigolettes, the Atchafalaya, and over at Lake Charles.
Okay, so intercepting ships, basically.
Right. Ships suspected of carrying disease were stopped and their contents disinfected. And get this, they were using methods like steam at 230 degrees Fahrenheit for soft materials and carbolic acid for ship holds. Pretty aggressive stuff for the time. They were tackling the visible threats as best they understood them.
It's incredible to think about their early sort of rudimentary understanding of how diseases spread. What's really striking is how sanitation efforts, sometimes almost by accident, had a massive impact even back then.
You're absolutely right. Take General Benjamin Butler during the federal occupation of New Orleans in the Civil War. So, 1862 to 1866. He arrived to find the city just filthy. Streets, gutters, overflowing. He launched this massive cleanup effort. And Dr. Elisha Harris of the U.S. Sanitary Commission later noted in 1865 that New Orleans became so clean a city had never before been seen upon the continent.
That's quite a statement.
It is. And what's fascinating is that yellow fever outbreaks subsided significantly during this period. But the direct link wasn't fully grasped yet. Many still believed in the miasma theory.
The bad air idea.
Exactly. The belief that disease came from noxious fumes from decaying stuff, not specific germs or vectors.
Yeah. So effective cleaning, but maybe not for the reasons they fully understood at the time. The real scientific breakthrough then, understanding yellow fever, that must have been revolutionary for public health.
It really was. The pivotal insight came from Dr. Carlos J. Finley in Cuba. He theorized that yellow fever was transmitted by mosquitoes. A pretty radical idea back then.
I bet.
Dr. Walter Reed and his U.S. team went to Cuba to investigate and found significant merit in Finlay's theory. And despite some lingering skepticism, Dr. William C. Gorgas, he really proved it. His sanitary programs in Havana and later during the Panama Canal construction were incredibly successful.
What did those involve?
Things like draining swamps, widespread fumigation, establishing public water systems, all aimed squarely at mosquito control.
And this growing understanding, forged in these really tough public health battles, had a direct impact back in New Orleans not too long after.
Precisely. The 1905 yellow fever outbreak in New Orleans that turned out to be the very last one in the U.S.
The last one ever.
The last major outbreak, yes. The U.S. government stepped in, applied these new scientific insights, got comprehensive sanitary measures, fumigation, and they successfully controlled the disease. This really solidified the understanding that, okay, properly conveying wastes and taking care of standing water would assist in reducing mosquito populations and the potential for the continued transmission of diseases by mosquitoes. It was a huge shift.
It's truly remarkable how that scientific understanding evolved from those, frankly, brutal public health experiences. But how did that growing knowledge about disease transmission actually translate into something as concrete as, well, plumbing regulations? How do we get from just recommending better sanitation to requiring it by law?
Okay, so this brings us to the formalization stage. Building the code itself. The journey really began with Act 192 of 1898. This authorized the State Board of Health to prepare a comprehensive sanitary code.
A sanitary code, okay.
Right. And the first one was published just a year later, 1899. It included technical plumbing regulations, things like fixture traps, vents, drains, sewers, all the basics. But here's the key part. Initially, these were essentially recommendatory and educational.
Ah, so guidelines, not hard rules yet.
Exactly. Good ideas, suggestions, but not legally binding.
So when did those recommendations finally get some teeth? When did they become law?
That shift happened pretty quickly, actually. In 1902, Act 150 was passed. This made violations of the sanitary code a misdemeanor, punishable by fine or even imprisonment.
Okay, so now it's obligatory.
Now it's obligatory. And in that same year, 1902, another act, Act 194, authorized local boards of examiners for plumbers in larger cities' populations of 30,000 or more. This meant plumbers had to pass exams and get licenses, a huge step toward professionalizing the trade, ensuring competence.
What I find particularly compelling here is that it wasn't just the state laying down rules from on high. The plumbing professionals themselves actually stepped up to help shape their own standards. Is that right?
You've hit on a really crucial point there.
Yes.
Journeymen and master plumbers across the state actively lobbied the legislature. Their efforts led directly to the creation of the State Plumbers Licensing Law and the State Plumbing Board in 1924. That was Act 248.
So a regulatory body for the profession, driven by the profession.
Exactly. Initially, the board focused just on licensing journeyman plumbers. But over time, especially after 1990, its scope expanded quite a bit. It started including licensure for master plumbers, gas fitters, medical gas professionals, backflow prevention specialists, reflecting how complex the trade was becoming.
And the State Plumbing Board itself, it has a bit of its own history, location-wise, right? It moved around a bit.
It does, yeah. For 80 years, 8 decades, the board was headquartered right there in New Orleans, which makes sense, given the city's central role and its origins. But then Hurricane Katrina hit, caused widespread flooding. And that forced the board to relocate to Baton Rouge, which is where it's operated ever since.
And so the code we rely on today, the LSPC, it's really the culmination of all these historical developments, these legal updates.
Exactly right. The current Louisiana State Plumbing Code, the LSPC 2000 edition, is the living result of this long evolution. Legally, it's known as Part 14th of the Louisiana State Sanitary Code. It's a testament to, over a century of lessons learned and protections built.
So Louisiana has this incredibly deep public health-focused history baked into its plumbing code. But in the modern era, there are these other national standards out there, like the International Plumbing Code, the IPC, and some folks have pushed for Louisiana to adopt that instead. What's really at the heart of this ongoing debate? The clash of codes, so to speak.
Well, the fundamental difference, as presented by the state bodies, really boils down to their core philosophies. The Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals and the State Plumbing Board strongly argue that the LSPC's primary focus, its #1 goal, is protecting public health.
Okay, public health first.
Right. Whereas they view codes like the IPC, which is published by the International Code Council, or ICC, they see those as often being primarily concerned with public safety or even construction convenience, which, look, those are important too, but it's a different emphasis. It's about how you prioritize.
That's really interesting. And the ICC itself, the group that publishes the IPC, they have a kind of intriguing origin story that seems relevant here.
It does. The ICC is actually fairly new, formed in 1994 by merging three older organizations. One of those was the Southern Building Code Congress International, the SBCCI.
SPCCI,
Yeah,
okay.
here's where it gets a little murky, maybe. In 1997, the SPCCI published what it called its Standard Plumbing Code. But apparently this document was actually just the 1995 edition of the IPC, simply put into an SPCCI binder.
Wait, really? So they just repackaged it?
That's the contention. And the effect was that many cities, whose local laws automatically adopted the latest SPCCI code, they ended up unknowingly adopting the IPC instead of a distinct SPCCI standard. It raises questions about transparency, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And this isn't just about plumbing codes, is it? This tension connects to broader concerns about how public health gets overseen in other areas, too.
It absolutely does. There's a wider concern among groups like ASTOM, that's the Association of State and Territorial Health Officers. They worry about the ICC potentially developing things like an international swimming pool code, for instance.
Ah, okay. Why is that a concern?
Well, traditionally, reviewing and approving public swimming pools, the construction, the systems that's fallen under state local health departments, just like plumbing. The worry is if that kind of construction oversight moves away from health departments towards a more building code-centric body like the ICC, who's then going to be primarily focused on the public health aspects, the water quality, disease prevention related to pools.
Right, it highlights that tension between purely construction standards and regulations specifically designed for health protection.
Ex-
And this isn't just theoretical for Louisiana. There was a really significant attempt to actually replace the LSPC with the IPC not too long ago, right? Back in 2007, House Bill 601.
That's right. HB 601 was a major push. It aimed to do two big things: replace the LSPC entirely with the IPC, and critically, repeal plumber licensing as managed by the State Plumbing Board.
Repeal licensing, so what would that mean?
Under that bill, plumbers would only need to be licensed as plumbing contractors and only for jobs over $50,000.
50,000. So that would deregulate a lot of smaller jobs like residential work?
A huge amount, yes, including much residential plumbing. It was widely understood, or at least believed, that home builder and general contractor interests were strongly behind this push. There was also a specific beef, as the memo puts it, over the journeyman to apprentice ratio.
Ah, okay. What was that about?
Well, after Hurricane Katrina, the ratio had been temporarily expanded from 1:1 to 1:3 to help address labor shortages during rebuilding. There was apparently some pushback on returning to the stricter ratio, and this bill was seen partly as a way around that.
And you mentioned a legendary response to that bill. How did the plumbing industry react to this proposal to basically overhaul their regulation and licensing?
Oh, it was quite the scene. Truly memorable, according to the accounts. Approximately 3,000 licensed plumbers, 3,000, all wearing bright yellow shirts,
Wow, yellow shirts.
showed up en masse at the state capitol for the House Commerce Committee hearing on HB 601. You just don't see that kind of industry solidarity very often. Their sheer presence, filling the halls, the committee rooms, it sent an undeniable message.
I can only imagine. What happened to the bill?
It was subsequently involuntarily deferred,
Hmm.
which, in legislative terms, effectively stopped it dead in its tracks, killed it.
A powerful display.
It really was a powerful reminder that these codes aren't just abstract rules. They affect real people, real livelihoods, and there are passionate advocates defending them.
That story really drives home the conviction behind keeping the LSPC distinct. So, okay, beyond the philosophical difference, public health versus maybe public safety or convenience, what are the concrete specific features in Louisiana's code? The things that make it, in the words of that memo, much more protective of the citizens' health compared to the IPC. This brings us to diving into the specific differences.
Absolutely. And there are quite a few key distinctions highlighted in the DHH memo. Let's walk through some of the big ones. First up is cross-connection control. This is huge.
Okay, what's that about?
It's about preventing contaminated water, think of lawn chemicals, industrial fluids, whatever, from flowing backward into your clean drinking water supply.
Right, you definitely don't want that.
Definitely not. Now, here's the critical difference.
Yeah.
The LSPC puts the main responsibility for preventing this backflow on the water supplier, the utility. It requires them to install and maintain containment devices, essentially robust one-way valves, to protect the entire public water system. Everyone connected.
So it's protecting the whole system at the source.
Exactly. It includes detailed tables, adopts a specific manual for backflow prevention. It's comprehensive at the system level. The IPC, on the other hand, tends to focus more on fixture isolation, preventing backflow within a single building, say at a specific faucet or appliance,
Mm-hmm.
which is good, but the LSPC's approach of system-wide containment is considered much more protective of the public water supply overall.
That makes sense, a broader shield. Okay, what else?
Next is venting requirements, sewer gas intrusion. This is literally about keeping dangerous, potentially explosive sewer gas out of your home or building.
Also very important.
Critically important. The LSPC mandates that all vent pipes must extend fully to the outside air, no shortcuts. And crucially, it prohibits the use of mechanical devices called air admittance valves, or AAVs, within the venting system.
Air admittance valves, what are those?
They're small, often plastic mechanical valves. They're supposed to let air into the plumbing system when needed for drainage, but block sewer gas from getting out.
Supposed to.
Exactly. They're mechanical devices, and mechanical devices can fail. They can get stuck open, the seal can degrade, and if they fail, they provide a direct pathway for sewer gas to enter your living space. The LSPC says no. It insists on a passive, non-mechanical vent pipe going all the way outside. It prioritizes foolproof health protection over, frankly, a cheaper installation option.
How much cheaper are we talking?
Well, the IPC allows these AAVs. In the memo notes, they can cost as little as $3.
$3, wow. That seems like a small saving for a potentially big risk.
That's the LSPC perspective, absolutely.
And you mentioned this isn't just theoretical. There was that tragic link to the SARS epidemic.
Yes, a really chilling, real-world example that underscores the risk. A World Health Organization study looked closely at the Amoy Gardens apartment complex in Hong Kong during the 2003 SARS outbreak. They found that the virus spread extensively within the building, partly due to a plumbing issue. Specifically, a faulty P or U trap, that's the curved pipe under your sink or floor drain that holds water to block sewer gas.
Right, the water seal.
Exactly. In some units, that water seal had dried out, maybe from disuse. Combine that with a powerful bathroom exhaust fan running, and the fan literally sucked aerosolized virus particles out of the building's sewer stack, through the dry trap, and into the bathroom air.
Oh my God.
It infected 42 people just through that pathway. It showed how critical that water seal is, and by extension, how dangerous any breach in the venting system can be.
And there was a local connection after Katrina, too.
There was. Concerns were raised about certain anti-siphon trap vent devices, similar in principle to AAVs used in some FEMA trailers. There was a hypothesis, though hard to prove definitively, that Mississippi, which largely follows the IPC and didn't have Louisiana's specific trailer trap requirement, might have seen more illness complaints in trailers compared to Louisiana, potentially due to failures in these devices allowing sewer gas entry.
Did anything come of that?
A letter detailing these concerns was sent to HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, back in 2007. But according to the memo, no response was ever received.
Huh. Okay, so venting is a major difference. What else stands out?
All right, let's talk about grease, oil, sand, and special interceptor separators. Think restaurants, car washes, places like that.
Okay, things you don't want going straight into the sewer system.
Precisely. The LSPC provides much more detailed design requirements, examples, and diagrams for these interceptors. And importantly, it allows for on-site construction of these interceptors. This gives health inspectors, the sanitarians, a lot more flexibility. They can tailor the requirements based on the specific facility, the size of the restaurant, its menu, things like that.
So more customized solutions.
Right. The IPC, in contrast, tends to offer more general statements and often limits the options to pre-manufactured, off-the-shelf units. These might not always be the best fit or the most effective solution for a specific situation.
Got it. More flexibility in LSPC. What about something really basic, like just the number of toilets or sinks required?
That's another one. Minimum plumbing fixture requirements. The LSPC, specifically in its Table 407, generally sets higher requirements for the number of fixtures needed in various types of buildings. These requirements were developed over about 20 years, and they were specifically adjusted to align with other parts of the Louisiana Sanitary Code, like the rules for daycare centers, for example.
So ensuring enough facilities are available, thinking about potty parity, maybe?
Exactly. Or just avoiding long lines and ensuring adequacy, especially in places licensed by the Department of Health and Hospitals. The IPC generally requires fewer fixtures, which might save a little on initial construction costs, but could lead to user inconvenience or even conflicts with DHH licensing standards down the line.
That directly impacts, your experience in a public building. Okay, what about testing? How do they make sure the pipes don't leak before the walls go up?
Good question. That brings us to testing requirements. The LSPC mandates that the rough-in water supply system, that's the pipes hidden in the walls and floors, must be tested to a pretty high pressure, 200 psi.
200 psi, that sounds like a lot.
It is. It's significantly higher than normal operating pressure, which is usually capped around 80 psi. Think of it as a serious stress test. This stricter requirement was actually added after a wave of lawsuits related to leaks from polybutylene pipes.
Ah, I remember hearing about those issues.
Yeah. Although it was often the connections, not the pipe itself, that failed. But the point was, this high-pressure test is designed to catch any potential weak points or leaks before everything gets covered up. Find the problem early.
Makes sense. Preventative. How does the IPC compare?
The IPC requires less stringent testing, typically just testing at the system's working pressure up to that 80 psi maximum. Less of a stress test, more just checking for obvious leaks under normal conditions.
So, a significantly stricter test under LSPC.
Oh.
Okay. What about things related to just basic sanitation, like in restrooms?
Yeah, a couple of points there. The LSPC uniquely requires public toilet room floor drains.
Floor drains in public restrooms.
Yes. It seems like a small thing, but think about it. If a toilet overflows or there's a leak in a public restroom, that floor drain is crucial for containing the mess and allowing for easier, more sanitary cleanup.
Right. Prevents a huge unsanitary situation from spreading.
Exactly. It's a simple, practical public health safeguard. The IPC doesn't mandate them.
Huh. Interesting.
And related to preventing contamination is air break drainage system requirements.
Air break. What does that mean?
It's about ensuring there's a physical gap, both horizontal and vertical space, between a pipe carrying waste, like from a dishwasher or ice machine drain, and the drain it flows into.
Okay. Why the gap?
It prevents any possibility of contaminated water from the drain backing up or splashing into the appliance or pipe outlet. So for an ice machine drain, any potential backup spills safely onto the floor rather than flowing back into the machine where it could contaminate the ice. Same idea for food prep sinks.
I see. So preventing cross-contamination through drainage.
Precisely. The LSPC spells out these requirements clearly. The IPC generally lacks these specific provisions for ensuring that physical separation.
Okay, another subtle but important health protection. What about the size of pipes used for venting?
Right. Wet venting common vent requirements. This gets a bit technical, but it's important. The LSPC generally requires larger pipe sizes for vents that serve multiple fixtures, wet vents, or act as a common vent, often requiring a 3-inch diameter pipe.
3 inches. And that affects construction.
It often does. Using a 3-inch vent pipe frequently means the builder has to use 2x6 studs for the wall framing instead of the standard 2x4 to accommodate the larger pipe.
Ah, and that's been a point of contention you mentioned? Cost.
Yes, that's often cited as a main objection from home builders, the perceived added cost of 2x6 construction in those areas. The LSPC also mandates at least one main vent stack going through the roof must be at least 3 inches in diameter for each building drain. This ensures robust venting for the whole system.
And the IPC allows smaller pipes.
Yes, the IPC typically allows smaller vent pipe sizes. For a standard 2-bathroom house, it might only require 1.5-inch vents in many cases. The concern from the LSPC perspective is that these smaller pipes might restrict proper air exchange and not provide the same level of protection against siphonage or back pressure in the system.
So, bigger pipes for better airflow and system performance under LSPC.
That's the principle. Then there are a couple of points about specific systems or situations, combination waste and vent system approval. This is a type of plumbing system design that uses common pipes for both waste and venting under specific conditions.
That's complex.
It can be. And because the design details are critical and easily missed, the LSPC treats these as an alternate designed plumbing system. This means the design plans have to be submitted for review and approval by the state health officer before construction starts, an extra layer of scrutiny.
Makes sense if it's complex. How does IPC handle it?
The IPC generally treats combination waste and vent systems as prescriptive, meaning if you follow the basic code rules, no special review is needed. LSPC sees more risk there.
Okay. And finally, what about places like trailer parks?
Right. Travel trailer parks and mobile manufactured home parks. The LSPC has specific regulations for these, which is important because you have multiple dwellings connected to a shared sewer system in close proximity. Crucially, it requires a trailer trap, a P-trap installed at each individual connection point to the park's sewer system.
Why is that needed? Don't trailers have their own traps?
They do, but this provides an additional barrier. It specifically protects occupants from sewer gas potentially entering their home from a neighbor's unit via the shared park piping, especially if an individual unit's venting system or internal traps aren't working perfectly. Remember those anti-siphon devices potentially failing?
Ah, right. An extra layer of protection between units.
Exactly. The FEC, however, does not specifically address plumbing requirements for these types of parks separately, leaving a potential vulnerability in those shared systems.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of specific differences, each rooted in trying to provide a higher level of health protection. So, what did this all really mean for you, our listener? We've seen how Louisiana's plumbing code isn't just some dry set of rules buried in a binder. It's actually a living document with this fascinating, sometimes really dramatic history, born from real public health crises, refined over decades, all aimed at protecting you and your community in tangible ways every single day, things we mostly don't even think about.
Yeah, and if we connect this back to the bigger picture, it just profoundly underscores how these seemingly technical regulations, they're fundamentally about our well-being, our health. The LSBC's specific requirements we just talked about, from cross-connection control protecting the entire water supply, right down to the precise size of vent pipes keeping dangerous gases out of our homes, they're direct legacies. Legacies of hard lessons learned through really challenging public health battles. And the core principle seems to be prioritizing that health and safety, maybe sometimes over mere construction convenience or initial cost savings. As that original DHH memo states so powerfully, money without your health means nothing.
That's a really strong concluding thought from the source itself. This deep dive, I think, truly shows that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to understanding these unseen protections that shape our daily lives. And it maybe raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. What other everyday protections do we just take for granted that were also born from similar dramatic historical battles for public health? And perhaps more pointedly, what role do different interests, health advocates, industry groups, regulators play today in maintaining or maybe even challenging those vital safeguards? Something to think about.